Okay, so yeah, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency recently just finished airing season 1, and there's quite a lot to talk about with it, and I think it would be kind of an interesting subject to bring up, so yeah, let's just talk about it. So, the overall story, is there really any good way to explain it? Really, it's one of these things that you just had to watch the show to actually understand what's going on, and even then, yeah, it's still pretty confusing. I'm guessing that there are a lot of references to the book that the show is based off of, but I've never personally read those books, so yeah, I was pretty confused in a lot of aspects here. Hopefully they'll explain a lot more of these things in season 2, but really right now it's pretty confusing to me, so I'll just try to explain it the best I can. Todd is a guy who works at a hotel, and upon finding a very, very strange murder scene in the pet room, he is fired because he found the room. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, now he's been fired, and he's also trying to take care of his sister who has a disease that doesn't exist, but was just made up for this TV show. And yes, they do need to confirm that in one of their little things about, and one of their little closer looks about the show. Yes, they need to confirm that this disease does not really exist, because yeah, I was really thinking that it did. So, yeah, he's trying to take care of his sister, and now he's just been fired, so he can't really do that well. But things will kind of get better for him, because now Dirk gently breaks into his apartment. Yeah, things get better for him here. So yeah, after Dirk breaks into his apartment, he decides that he wants to bring him onto the case, and Todd, being actually a pretty rational person, decides, get out of my apartment, random man who just broke in here who says that he knows about my case, which I'm not even involved in, and I've only just found the murder scene of. So yeah, he kicks him out, and eventually he does get tied into him, and he does actually end up working with him throughout the series. So they're pretty much trying to find out how Patrick Spring, the man who was murdered in the penthouse, really died. And, yeah, a lot of weird things come from this. There's body swapping, there's time travel, there's some weird assassin who seems to have some sort of tie-in to the universe, which apparently means that she can't get hit at all, and has actually killed someone by just saying hi. Yeah, I will only say they do give her some very interesting murders, and she's one of the really fun parts of this show. And also, we get ties into the cops, which are also apparently tied into the body swappers, and there's a girl inside of a dog, and yeah, these are all sounding like the ravings of a madman right now, aren't they? Yeah, so that's pretty much the main synopsis of the show I can give without trying to spoil anything. As, yeah, you really just need to see this show to actually find out what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, and they also have this weird, sort of, I don't know, weird gang biker people who can also suck out emotions that are called the Rowdy Three, even though there's four of them, and they actually get a fifth member at the end. So yeah, makes sense. No, it doesn't at all. Oh yeah, and there's some ties to the government, and also there's this one girl who is also in charge of taking care of Lydia Spring, who was the girl who's inside of a dog now, if that makes any sense, and she was kidnapped, and then this girl, Farah, she's the one who's in charge of protecting Lydia Spring, is locked up in a red room, and then gets tied into everything that's going on, and it's really confusing, it really is. So yeah, pretty much the main thing with this show is saying that everything that happens in it, all that stuff is connected in some way or another. And in a way it is, but it's a very, very confusing way, and one that you will have to watch the show to actually understand. So, yeah, really, if you don't watch the show or read the books, I guess, I don't know. I've heard that the books could be useful, but I've also heard that the character Todd, who is the main character on the show, by the way, was never even in the books. So, yeah, not really sure how much the books would help you out here, but they might be kind of useful to actually read if you're going into the show. Me personally, I would rather just watch the show and be extremely confused while enjoying it. Or just being extremely confused while confused about it. So, yeah, really, for this show, it's really something that you just have to see with the story. Honestly, it can be pretty confusing, especially if you haven't seen it, but even if you have been watching it and keeping up with it, it can still be pretty confusing at times with how things are actually explained or how things actually work. There are some episodes at the very end which do try and combine everything and actually make things feel more connected, and in some ways it actually does work and does explain a lot of things, which make it a little bit easier to understand, especially if I were to go back and watch the series now. Or at least this first season, as I have heard there will be a season 2. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if the show actually got really great ratings or not, or if people watched enough. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that watched it and enjoyed it, so I don't know. There might be a season 2. And really, it's just kind of confusing for me to even watch the show. Really, I think that just being able to read the books and go out and do that is really something that would really help while watching it, but yeah, there are a lot of things that are really confusing to me, which I really do hope will be explained in season 2, but the good thing that I do have to give for this show is that the overall feel of it is extremely surreal, and that's what they go with. The whole entire show does sort of just have a lot of fun with the fact that it is surreal in ways that can actually be fun as you're watching it, but really, to me, it was just a little bit too surreal at times, and ways that would take me out of the story. Especially in the first episode, where there's just a bunch of random stuff being thrown at you with no real clear meaning to any of it until the very end, in which case then things make a bit more sense. So yeah, really, it's only until the end where things actually start to make sense, but you had to go through a lot of really, really confusing stuff to actually get to that point. And so let's talk about the characters now. For one, we got Todd. No, not you, Todd. A different Todd. Yeah, okay. So back onto what I was talking about. Todd is played by Elijah Wood, and is actually one of the reasons I was interested in the show, because I actually do really like this actor. And for the character, he's actually pretty good, and I do like his reaction to all the surreal things going on around him, and it does seem very normal, and was pretty much my reaction while watching everything going on. And yeah, when things started to unfold, yeah, it did make more sense, and he was starting to understand things too a whole lot more, so it's pretty much for a character that the audience could relate to while watching the show. And really, he was pretty good. Although, then we get closer to the end, where there is something revealed, so mini spoiler alerts. Yeah, I think this was kind of obvious by the first episode, but yeah, if you didn't get this, then yeah, let me just say that this is your warning. I will be spoiling a little bit here, so you should probably just skip ahead a little bit if you haven't seen it yet or don't want anything spoiled for you. So, it's revealed that Todd, even though he said earlier on in the show that he did have the disease that his sister had and was also a family disease, it turns out that he was one of the few in his family that didn't have this disease. And yeah, he apparently cheated out his family so then they could give him money, which he could pretend to go to counseling for his disease for. Instead, he would go to college and also use the money for extra things, and pretty much did that until they were broke, and also until he actually realized that his sister amazingly had the disease, which is something that he knew already. Why was this supposed to be a shock to him? But yeah, then he decided to change his ways and take care of his sister more. Now, while this does add a little bit more character into him, and it does explain why he does care about his sister more, because God knows it can't just be that he's a loving brother. That'd be impossible. No, instead it's because he actually does have more of a selfish reason and wants to actually make up for what he did in the past, which is a little bit nice add-on to the character, but man does it make him a dick. Really. He even says in the show that he was an a-hole for doing this, and yeah, I really do agree. Honestly, this makes him a pretty terrible person to be relatable to the audience, and honestly, I do kind of hate him at this point because of that, because that was an awful thing to do, especially since he knew that his sister was suffering with this actual disease. And in the end, of course, the show does give him what he deserves, and he actually does start getting the disease rather randomly. Seriously, he's like in his 20s. Was this just like a really, really delayed disease or something? I don't get why he just started up now, but yeah, he does get the disease in the end, and the song Get What You Deserve is playing. So yeah, honestly, I did like that little touch. But man, that is kind of a harsh thing to get what he deserves, but really he does kind of deserve it for what he did, which was awful. Really, this was the point where I didn't really like the character that much, and honestly, after this, I didn't really like him as much from this point. Just knowing what he did from then on, it really just sort of bugged me the whole entire time. And then also, near the very end of the show, he's really hating Dirk for a time loop that happened in which pretty much Dirk told his past self, go into this apartment, wear this gorilla mask, and take this kitten. Oh, and this guy, you'll meet him one day. Go into his apartment and meet him. And apparently this really pisses off Todd. I have no idea why. It's never really explained why. It's just he thought that apparently this meant that he knew exactly what was going to happen and that he could have prevented all this. Yeah, I'm sorry, Todd, but that message that Dirk sent to his younger self was really vague. Seriously, how was he supposed to get anything that happened after this point from what he got there? There was so much vague answers being put into that, it really makes no sense how he would have actually gotten any type of answer from that, especially as to what would happen later on in the show. But apparently this really annoyed Todd because he thought that that's exactly what it meant, and that he knew exactly what was going to happen here. Somehow. I really don't get it. So, yeah, for some odd reason, still don't really get it, but that really annoyed Todd and did make him more of a jerk near the last few episodes, but in the end he does forgive Dirk for getting a vague answer at one point in his life. Yeah, still don't get why he was angry about that, but he does forgive him for that, and they end up being friends, and honestly, it was a pretty good arc for him. And I did like him throughout the show. It's just that those were the two little things that I really didn't like with him. Just like those two things near the very end, it really made him seem like an awful person. And, well, yeah, he does fight to try and make up for what he did, and that is a good aspect to his character. I honestly feel like that part, that thing that he did when he was much younger, honestly, that would just stick with me while I was watching the show and make him seem like a really awful person quite a lot while watching it. But he does try and make up for his ways in the past, and honestly that does add a lot more character to him. But yeah, to me, that little part just wouldn't let me go this whole entire show. It just really bugged me. But really, he's not that bad, and Elijah Wood does do a very good job in the role, so honestly I did like him here. So after him, we have Dirk, and honestly, he's alright. Now, I feel like there were a lot of moments where he did have a lot of interesting backstory that I feel like will be revealed in the next season. Again, if that happens, I don't know. It might happen, it might not. I'm pretty sure it will, but yeah, we might have to wait for some time for that, but really, what happened with him throughout the show is pretty much he is a detective who believes that everything is connected, and pretty much he has a very close tie-in with that. And and pretty much he just has to find everything that is connected and how exactly they work together to actually be able to solve the case. And honestly, it is kind of interesting, but really, I feel like his acting made him feel like he was a pretty childish character, which, while not bad, and he actually does get pretty likable as the show goes on, really, in those first few episodes, he was just kind of annoying and just felt really, really childish, much more than he needed to be while solving a crime about a murder. Seriously, you're solving a murder case. Show a little bit of professionalism here, but he does show that near the end a whole lot more, and you do actually get to see him act more like a detective near the end, so that is something that I did like. But yeah, there were quite a few moments where he did kind of annoy me like that. But honestly, there were also some pretty interesting things revealed throughout the show, which I feel like could be really well if they followed up on it in later seasons. Like, his tie-in with the government, that seemed really, really interesting, and I would not mind seeing them dive into that a whole lot more, because it honestly seemed very fascinating, and really, I just think it'd be an interesting thing to look at. And it looks like they will be doing that next season from the ending of this one, so really, I cannot wait to see how they actually go into that more. As that was one of the things with him that really caught my interest, even if it was just a little scene. And so, then after him, which, yeah, to sum him up, he was alright. I didn't mind him. There were quite a few things that, honestly, I didn't like starting off with him, but as the series went on, he got a bit better. So then after him, we have Farah, who honestly is a pretty cool character, and you can see that she really does regret what happened to Lydia Spring and would try to make up for that in any way possible. And also, she's pretty cool with a gun. And actually, she does have some really, really awesome moments, but yeah, honestly, I don't really feel like she was the best character at some points, as they sort of hinted that she has a mental disability, which is never explained what kind. It just makes her worry a lot or talk to herself a lot, which doesn't really seem like a mental disability to me, but they kind of hint that it might be. To me, it just sort of seems like she's over worried about things, so yeah, I don't know a lot about mental disabilities if it's not obvious, so I don't know. They try and hint at that, so I don't know. It might be, it might not, and she actually does have some military training, which makes her a pretty cool character. How it actually ended up to her getting locked up in a red room, I don't really know. But her actually breaking out was kind of funny. Just like a bullet randomly hits her captive, and it's honestly kind of funny there. And honestly, I did like her character quite a bit while watching the show. It's just that sort of worrying type of thing being added into her, I didn't really like. That was sort of the part that kind of took me out of her character, but honestly, I feel like she definitely made up for that with some really cool moments. So yeah, she was probably one of the coolest characters in the show. And then after that, we have Todd's sister, Amanda, who, yeah, she's got periperculitis, whatever that disease is. It starts with a P. So yeah, she's got a disease that makes her hallucinate, and pretty much her hallucinations feel very, very real to her. Like, she had a hallucination inside of a store that she was burning alive, and she pretty much felt like she was really burning alive. And honestly, that is kind of an interesting disease, and I do like how she deals with that, and pretty much how it ends up with her story arc in the end, and how she ends up joining the Rowdy Three, mainly because they actually do get to suck out sort of her feelings whenever she does have this disease. And honestly, I really do like her. She was alright in some aspects, and the actress did pretty well. Honestly, I am kind of interested in seeing where her arc goes, as she was pretty likable here. And hey, at least she does treat what Todd did really, really well. And honestly, I did really like that scene. And so yeah, for Amanda, I think that she was pretty good. Then we got that detective guy. I think his name was Estebez. And honestly, he's alright. Really, we do get a lot more character added into him once his partner dies. Sorry, spoiler. Yeah, his partner dies. And honestly, that was a really big shock to me, so I'm so sorry I spoiled that. Really, I did not mean to. It's just sort of something that does tie into his character a lot. And I won't be talking about his partner, because even though his partner was good, and in some aspects, there was some things I didn't really like about him. Really, there's not that much to talk about, and really, I think that's more Estebez's reaction to his death that makes him much more interesting. And Estebez, once his partner does die, he really did become a much more interesting character to me. And honestly, I really did like him there. After that happened, he did become a pretty cool character. And you do see how hardly this death hits him. And honestly, that makes him really likable, which made me really hate his ending. Seriously, what the heck? So, yeah, after him, we got... Oh, God. The cult. How do I explain this cult? Well, they found a machine back in the 70s that pretty much they could swap souls in. And they have been pretty much using that for decades after. And have also been caught up in this weird war for the other parts of the machine with Patrick Spring, who I'll talk about later. And pretty much... God, they were lame. Seriously, they are one of the weirdest parts of this show, and honestly, I can never get into these guys. Like, their stupid bald minions and everything. Like, what was I looking at? Like, honestly, I had no idea what was going on with them, and honestly, I think that if I were to find out, I would have had to lose my mind. So really, I'm kind of glad I never really found out what was going on with them. I'm sure they might be explained in the books. I don't know. Maybe they make more sense in those, if they are in those. I don't know. I know they made up some things for the show, so yeah. I don't know if they're actually in the books or if they're just loosely based off of something from it. I really have no idea, but God, they were weird, and honestly, I could never get into them. There was just so much stupidity going on with them that I just could never be fascinated with them in the slightest. Like, really, they are just so freaking boring and confusing and extremely weird that honestly, they were one of the weakest parts of this show. And they added a lot into the extremely surreal nature of this show, which, yeah, I can pretty much safely say that they are the main cause of. And yeah, I honestly really did not like them for that, because I think that if they did lose a bit more of that surreal aspect, then this show could have been a whole lot stronger. Like, if it was a bit more based in reality, just a little bit, so then they could still keep in the supernatural aspects and all the extremely bizarre aspects, then if they made that a little bit more realistic or something, then I think I could have gotten into the show a whole lot more. And I definitely think that this weird cult definitely had a part to play in that. And they are just so weird, and I could never get into them at all. So, yeah, after them, we have Patrick Spring, who honestly was a pretty cool character. Pretty much, he went through time because he got a message saying that he should time travel from Dirk Gently. Even though we never see Dirk write this message. Yeah, not really sure when he actually wrote it or why there was blood on it. Seriously, did he just like put it right at his wound? Like, oh yay, there, now it looks better. It has blood on it. Perfect. Now I should send it. There we go. Don't know why I needed to do that. So, yeah, honestly, the whole entire reason why he time travels is kind of weird, but honestly, he is one of the more interesting characters in this show, as pretty much he's involved in with this huge war going on between that weird cult and him trying to protect his machines and also trying to protect a lot of other people from getting involved in everything. And honestly, he does make a life for him, and really he does make a life for himself here with his wife, and they even do have a kid. And it's really just the death of his wife that causes him to go back in time. Well, okay, wait, sorry, no, further in time. So then he can pretty much try and kill off this cult. So yeah, why he tries to do that, but why he doesn't try and do that before his wife dies, I don't know. Seems like, I mean, come on, dude, you have a time machine. You can go back to before she was alive. You're in a suit, unless if you pull up your mask, she's not gonna be amazed at you. So really, I don't see what exactly you were trying to accomplish here. But yeah, I guess that he just knew that they would be weaker at this point, for some reason, even though he seemed extremely capable of dealing with them. I mean, seriously, he takes out most of this whole entire cult in one go. He's honestly pretty awesome. So, yeah, really, I do think that this character was pretty cool, and I do like how his whole entire role with him dealing with his daughter and everything ties into it. I really did like that. The main thing I didn't really like, though, was his ending, which he goes back in time knowing that he's going to die, which is something that he could easily prevent by, I don't know, not stopping himself from going into that room. Really, he could easily prevent it that way, but decided, no, can't do that, because that would make sense, I guess. So, yeah, that was really the only major issue I had with him, but honestly, he was a pretty cool character overall, and I did like him. And so, then after him, there's not really actually that many to talk about, really. Yeah, there's no one else to oh, wait, no, okay, sorry, there was the assassin, the holistic assassin. Yeah, holistic. That's a very important word involving this show. Pretty much means that everything is connected, though. And pretty much a person in a certain profession that works in that aspect. And honestly, the holistic assassin is pretty cool. And honestly, I found her to be one of the much more fun aspects in the show, as she is just a very weird character in it, and they fully embrace that. She is a strange character, and they know that, so they're just gonna have a lot of fun with her. And really, I think that's what makes her one of the better characters in this show. So, yeah, honestly, I really did like her, and she was pretty awesome. She even does get a little sidekick at one point, and, well, he's not bad. I didn't really like him as much as the one he's accompanying, but honestly, they do work well together, and I did like him for the most part. So, yeah, I really did like the holistic assassin. She was pretty awesome. So, yeah, really the only character left to talk about is Lydia Spring, which is mainly a lot of which she really ties into the show, and honestly, I didn't mind her. Like, for her purpose in the show, I didn't mind it, although she is kind of an annoying little brat at the very end when she gets her body back. Seriously, why is she acting like that? She just got her body back, but won't believe that this thing can shapeshift. I mean, that this thing can pretty much switch bodies. Apparently, that's impossible to believe, even though she just did it. Honestly, there were quite a few moments like that where I did kind of get annoyed. Like, oh yeah, this thing cannot time travel. It can only switch minds. Because that makes sense. Yeah, sure. So, yeah, really, there was a moment like that where I did kind of get annoyed by her. But at the end, she did end up pretty much saving herself with her last few lines. I did like her there. So, for the show overall, I think it's alright. Really, there were a lot of things that were pretty confusing about it, especially on the first episode, which I actually did watch twice, once alone and once with my mom, because I wanted to show her this show. Amazingly, she did not watch anything else after the first episode with me. Yeah, I wonder why. So, yeah, there were some things I noticed when I watched the first episode again, but really, there were just a lot of things that just kind of didn't really work with me. Like, the over surreal aspect of it, honestly, I didn't really like that much, but it is okay for the way that it's done. Like, honestly, I feel like if they held back on the over surrealness with it, then it might have been a better show. But really, for what it is, it's not bad. And honestly, I am pretty excited for season 2, as it does seem to bring up the much more interesting aspect to Dirk Gently to me. And honestly, I do want to see that be explored more, so I am pretty excited if they do a season 2. So, yeah. And that's pretty much it. The show is alright. I definitely recommend checking it out, as it is pretty interesting, and if you're just in the mood for something really surreal, then this is definitely something to check out. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye.